Everybody, it's this is the first kind of installment in an interview series that we're going to be doing with Helios, and it's actually well timed. I've been paying attention to the EOSIO Plus working group calls that are taking place, and Douglas was on the not the most recent one, but a week ago. There was a conversation about using the Decide Voter tool. It's working on Telos and the Good Block team, which Douglas is basically. He's the guy. He's the one running the Good Block team, and he was going to do an updated demo to demonstrate to that group how they could use the tool to basically support just making decisions and voting on action items and things that come up for that EOSIO working group. So I figured, why not interview Douglas and help him with this process, save him some time. We can spend an hour and just kind of bang this out and it's just great to talk and get to know Douglas as well as he can demo the tool. So Douglas, thanks for being here, and maybe just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Chris. So my name is Douglas Horn. I'm the guy who sort of got the ball rolling on creating Telos several years ago, and still lead in the sort of big picture version of Telos. I'm a block producer there, and my company Good Block builds things like Telos, Decide, and now Decide Voter, dStore, decentralized cloud storage system, a lot of other fun things in the hopper, and I'm really happy to be working with all the groups that are working together to make EOSIO and whatever we're going to call it soon,
right?
A success.
Awesome. Yeah. Name to be determined, but at least this way we'll have a way to vote, or at least your team there, or the group will have a way to vote on what that name might be.
Yeah. So we built this. So if you have seen the videos, first of all, my sincere apologies, and then I talk a lot, and
Well,
love it or whatever.
It's not like it's not hollow talk. You've got things to say, and they're useful. So I wouldn't be too worried about it.
I hope so. That would be the one saving grace. Anyway, we have to decide things. We don't have any method easily to decide how people from a bunch of different chains are going to work together. It's an interesting problem because everybody would like this generally to work. But of course, we're going to have competing interests and decisions and whatnot, and we have to figure out a way to do that together and not fracture because people feel things are unfair or they unheard or whatever, and so that presents its own challenges. But one of the things that we can actually do is we can use this voting system and just make it really easy, at least to vote on things. We can. And, we can run through it, and so people there in that group are very generous. There's nothing like, there's no feeling like, well, this is a Telos tool, so we can't use it or whatever. People at this level are very much more practical than some people in the community who are more tribalistic or whatever. Right. I mean, a lot of people aren't. A lot of people love all of them or multiple chains, but that other contention does exist. So anyway,
that's kind of the point, though, right? Like this EOSIO working group it's a bunch of chains coming together to work together for mutual benefit. So I mean that alone kind of, let's drop the tribalism and let's just do what works to help push us all forward. You have a tool. It works. So why would we not? Why would that group not want to use something that you can vote on chain and be verifiable and transparent to the rest of each respective community? It just makes sense.
Exactly. So, and that is why we built it. This is not an uncommon problem in the world. Like, how are we going to actually, vote? And the larger your groups, and the more potential sort of discord in the groups, the more important it becomes to be able to do this.
Yeah.
Right. So and have this way. So it's just a good tool, and happy to show people how the tool works. Run through a quick demo of some of the features. It's pretty exciting, and we are continuously developing it and adding new features, and have a really fun list of things that we want to keep adding.
Awesome. So it's an Android and iOS app.
It's Android
correct?
and iOS. Yep. And it's Decide, and it uses It uses Anchor as the signer, so it doesn't take any keys.
Yep.
I definitely, one of the things in designing it, I definitely did not want to be in charge of anybody's keys. So,
So there's a use case right here. You've got a real world use case where we need to be able to vote in this group. It happens to be it's an EOSIO group, everyone's familiar, but conceivably this same process that you'll walk us through could be used by any number of groups that need to have voting. It could be voting for a student council representative, or my son's baseball team. We're trying to figure out which tournaments to go to. I mean, we could.
I use that example all the time. Yeah, I use the sports league. Like that's one of those hardest things, and then it's like, well, you have to go to the meeting. So only people actually go to the meetings. Homeowners associations are another thing, but sports leagues, I mean, that's where the rubber meets the road. And I actually think that if we can get that working well, then people will stop being so they'll stop accepting a process that just doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
Right? We have democratic processes that just don't work anymore. Maybe they never did well, maybe they worked as well as they could, but people, if you can do this on your phone and have it good and have it work well, you're not going to accept the fact that like in really, really important governance decisions, you can't do this.
Yeah.
Like they're going to go, why can I vote on my kids baseball team and my kid and my homeowners association and my work? Why can I vote on this simple thing that I know how to use? I can do them all in the same app if I want, right? Mm-hmm. Or at my company or some company I own stock in, there's like a special white label version that's just theirs that that they pay for, but basically does the same thing. Why do I have like 5 or 6 things that I'm am voting in my life, and then the actual government doesn't
sure
hasn't caught on? I think that's the only way to do it.
Yeah, it's grassroots.
Yeah, and I've always believed that that it doesn't matter how much you want to change the government or how much you want to do anything, unless you have a new set of tools, unless you have the right tools to do it, you're not going to be effective. I mean, people can riot in the streets, or demonstrate peacefully in the streets,
right,
and have other people call
mostly
it a riot.
Peaceful riots.
Right, but all this stuff can happen. But in the end, when they say, okay, well, what do you want? Unless they say, well, we want to use this easy tool, and we want to, you have to have a set of things that people can do. Otherwise, even if you win, so
like,
what are you going to do?
Yeah. Then what? So exactly.
So that's my end. I'm probably not very good at rioting in the streets or demonstrate or
This is a soft riot. We're gonna just change the democratic system by having provable on-chain voting by just making it, showing it to people and having them use it for athletic associations, like you suggest, right?
Exactly. Just make it convenient for them. Make it something where they're making, we're making money. Like elections are so expensive. We were just talking about pricing and how to do this for like enterprise, and just looking into the costs of every other available thing versus this is incredible, right? Mm-hmm. People forget how expensive it is. I think, elections cost millions of dollars just to run small local elections, right?
And that's the problem. It
doesn't make that better.
No, it adds friction to democracy. So, right, if we want to make this if we want to have as democratic as possible society, then let's have more votes. Let's give the community and the population, the public, more opportunity to express their opinions.
Yeah. So it seems like you and I agree. I mean, for a long time I felt this is where we have to go if we want the experiment of democracy to succeed. Mm-hmm. And I mean, this is ultimately why I got into blockchain. It's like somebody has to build this stuff. Somebody has to, instead of just talking about what can be done and doing all these, somebody's got to like go, okay, well, how do we build it? And I think, it's not unique to me. I think a lot of people in the blockchain community, a lot of people in the EOSIO community, we're like, okay, we are the builders, right? Mm-hmm. But that's why I that's why I dug in, and instead of just doing crypto mining and programming little things and stuff like that and keeping my head down, that's why I stuck my neck out, and because I just
Yep.
think it's important.
Good for you. Okay, so the screen we're looking at right now, it looks like you've got 3 accounts loaded
This is
up.
the home screen. Yeah, you can add and delete accounts really easily. You can do testnet accounts. I don't have any set up right now. Um, you can um, I can add it's multiple languages, so I can pick any language I want, and but I'm gonna pick English. Uh,
Yeah, that's great. You
and
have a ton of languages in there too. Like that's
Yeah,
I
well,
was
so
looking
we
through.
did
There's
a
quite a few.
yeah, there's a lot. We did a community, a community thing to um uh to make this to get all the languages done. We have a huge community, right? So
Hmm.
really easy to go and say, hey, um let's let's extend this and make it multi-language.
Yeah,
So that's already done. Um it doesn't automatically translate the content, right? So you can
sure.
navigate through this in multiple languages, but you can't once you get in and read something, you're going to be reading it in whatever language it was written in. But
Understood.
still, it's one more step.
Yeah.
Real easy to add a new account.
So you hit the plus sign there. Is that what happened?
Yeah, here I'll cancel out of this. So yeah, there's a plus sign. There's a plus in the upper right hand corner here. There's a,
Hmm.
there's a plus sign. I'll push that. That brings up Anchor. Everything is done, like I said, through Anchor.
So you
And
didn't have to
then,
select Anchor. It just automatically found Anchor on your phone, brought it up. Yeah, that's clever.
well, yeah, it's hooked up to it.
Yeah, great.
And then I just sign that in
So a
to.
user, basically a brand new user, they'd have to first go through, they'd get a Telos account, they'd set up Anchor on their phone with those keys,
Mhm,
and then they
mhm.
download your app, hit plus, find that account from their Anchor on their phone, and poof, then they land right where they are right now on your phone.
Correct.
Okay. So basically, so it's super clear, a brand new user would go on to create a Telos account, take that account and enter those keys and have it on their Anchor on their phone,
Hmm.
and then they hit the plus, they find that account, and you end up right where you are right now with that account now on the Decide Voter tool.
Exactly right. Yeah. So I can vote any number that I want to vote. Uh, it has You can look at things like you can look at the Telos governance
So
groups.
so now you've gone into one of the accounts. So you have, because this is the
Yeah.
other cool thing, right? A user could have multiple accounts like you have, and one of those accounts could be your work account. Say you've got a work
Yep.
voting thing or whatever it is, and you could segregate those. And once you go into an account, there's going to be a list of what is groups they've already been assigned to or joined. Is that how that works?
Yeah, so I'll show you. I'll describe it a little bit more as I go.
Okay.
So I have these accounts. You just saw me add an account. I can also remove any accounts. Any account that's set up in my Anchor is easy to bring in here. When I click on one of these, it opens it up as that user.
Okay.
There's a side menu over here, and it reminds me that I'm on the main net. It's me. I can drop down and I can see, how many tokens and whatnot I have in whatever things I'm in. So there's a couple of test things right now. There's plunder and I don't know can't remember what GBAV is. Something with some test that we
Sure.
set up. But and this pretty much lets me do any things I want to do. There's tutorials and settings and all these things. If you look in that, and you can also there's also create group. Um, so,
And BP
but
vote, which are for those who are actually more involved in Telos and they want to be in terms of governance, they could vote for block producers. That's what that BP stands for those
yeah,
who aren't
yep,
aware.
exactly right. You can vote for block producers as well. Um, there's lots of kinds of voting, and we may add other kinds of voting.
Mm-hmm.
So I can also switch between accounts very easily, and since you're seeing this account is joined more than one. It's also joined this Captain Scallywags, which is something we just set up as testing with Kylan Hurt from Telos the Telos crew. So we've got, it's a lot of tests in here if you're in that group. We've done we've done a lot of testing.
But in
But
comparison, for the EOSIO group, basically you'd have multiple votes, essentially. Multiple things that you voted on would all show up there. Is that essentially what that would
yes,
be?
that's exactly what will happen, right? So we have the Telos governance itself, which works very similarly, but not 100% the same. And we can look at whether we want to look at Telos works things. We want to look at if we want to look at things that are in draft versus things that um, are old and have closed or active, or however we want to do that.
Mm-hmm.
There's amends, as opposed to works. That's how we amend our uh, how we amend our governance, right? So this
Yeah.
is actually pretty cool. A couple more features going in very soon, um, but you can look at uh, this text of something. If we're going to try to update a document, we can look at the text of what we had and on each clause and what we want to bring in on each clause. This is amending the Telos blockchain network operating agreement. And we can see this is a older vote, but we can see how people voted. We can we can see who voted, how they voted. We could get into anyone you want here, and just and this one voted yes, and how much and so nobody has to wonder whether their system was whether their vote was counted.
Mm-hmm.
Now you can also see right now we've only loaded one doc, but we're looking at the ballots right now here on the left, but there's also docs. We can look at the documents. So this is the Telos blockchain network. Um, Actually, this is it, and we can look at the text of all of these, read through it, right, and then we can make proposals to change each one of these to change these things. So each one of these this is a Telos amend system, which is part of Telos decide. And what it does is it stores documents as a series of hashes to IPFS, or in this case dstore. And then if I want to change, one, I can make a proposal to change the something about voting. In fact, we recently did this, right? And if I change this about voting, then I make a proposal with that different text, and as part of that ballot, if the ballot passes, right, then the new text is replaced with the old text is replaced with a new text. So if I were to look at a ballot around an amend ballot, and changing, so this one is change voting periods to 2 million blocks, 12 days, and update language and minimum fees. That's just sort of like an overview. And then we can see, again, what's the current language on this clause, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then what's the proposed language, right?
Right. And
And
this is very specific to Telos, however. This amend part of decide voter is something that really only pertains to the Telos blockchain and governance on Telos. Is that accurate?
not at all.
Oh, okay. So other, like,
This is
say
why it's powerful.
my sport
It is.
league could have governance documents stored the same way
Yeah,
and have it. Okay.
we have conversations with people. Telos sent somebody to the Wyoming blockchain week,
Yep.
talking about DAOs, because the DAO LLC is a very big deal there. And after and it's Max Gravitz, who's great. He works on many chains, and great guy, great developer. He's been very involved in this from the very beginning. He brought seeds in even before we had this interface, right? We had the back end on the chain for a long time, and I realized that what we didn't have was the interface that made it possible to really use it at this level, right? It just takes time to build. This probably has taken us a year to build this, right? And so I talked to Max. And I said, "Hey, well, where are we? Where do we stand on these things?" And because a lot of people were showing their wares, right? And he said they were like we're like 2 or maybe even 3 years ahead of everybody else in terms of what we functionally have. And I said, "Oh, that's great. Well, what should we add or what should we do?" He says, "Yeah, yeah. The one thing that everyone's really realizes that they need that doesn't exist is a system to work on documents and amend documents
Mm-hmm.
and update voting." And I said, "We have that. We did build that." Like, it's surprising that he didn't know more about it because, um, because of how closely he works. But yeah, this is a major tool, right? Um, so you can have documents and have people do all the same processes, and you can propose, hey, in clause 17 we're going to adopt this language. That's how actual governance things get done, right? You could
Yep.
talk, hey, we're going to do this, but really it comes down to, like, how are we going to write that up?
Yep.
What are the exact changes going to be? um,
And where's your source of truth?
yeah, exactly. And how do we change these things? And so by using this structure that at Good Block we came up with, which is to basically, I mean, it is to have these things as hashed, hashes of clauses, right? That exist
Yep.
on IPFS or DStore, and so therefore they couldn't be changed. They couldn't, if it's a
It's
hash, it
immutable.
means that, yeah, yeah, it's immutable, and nobody can sneak anything in. I mean, which
Mm-hmm.
is the other thing, you got to watch out for,
Right.
is governments or anyone sneaking stuff in, and you can't do that, right? But just swapping them out is like a really cool, almost simple blockchain way to do it. When I told a couple of people about how we were doing this, earlier on, and like people who had been thinking about this for a long time, and it's like a forehead, I won't name any names, but it was a forehead slapping moment for
Sure.
for a couple of people who were like, "Oh, of course that's how you would do it. That's perfect." So
Right.
um yeah, so that's, we think it's very important. It's one thing to vote on ballots or elections or things like that, but to be able to effectively amend documents, right? I mean, there's all kinds of things. There's water districts that cross. There's so many levels of government,
Mm-hmm.
right? And like, I'm obviously mostly talking about the U.S., where my experience is, but these problems exist everywhere. So,
Yeah.
if you have, like here where I live, in the area I live, we have of course federal government, we have we have state government, we have county government, we have city government, we have, and then we have and everyone knows about that. But then we also have
Right.
like things like water and power districts, right? And these things get built up over, as organizations come together and acquire each other, or something fails and somebody picks them. Like, these things are like, very weird, sort of gerrymander looking um uh maps, or they that basically are dictated by, you know weird historical things, also the history, also the geography of something, if they share a watershed or whatever. And so these things overlay other kinds of governments districts,
Yep.
right? And they have to abide by a lot of laws. We also have like a port authority here, that a lot of places have, that's multiple counties, but it doesn't quite fit. there's all these there's all these layers, right? And a lot of times, especially with things like water districts and whatnot, they have brought in other organizations, and the bylaws of each of them, they've never really had a way to sort of go through and go, hey, we acquired this, this is now part, how do we reconcile these
Yep.
things? And so the tool, obviously people have to go through each process, but again, if you have a tool like this that makes it possible for multiple stakeholders to vote, then
Yep.
you can do it, as opposed to a big, otherwise you got to get people in a meeting, you got to everyone get there at the same
It's just far
time,
more efficient.
everyone's going to read it. Yeah,
Right.
yeah, this is it's I think it's revolutionary,
For sure.
when
And,
we do
and
it.
and as a consumer, like as a just a participant who maybe isn't necessarily, you're not like working for the municipality or anything, you might want to know what the rules are that apply. And it's not always so easy to figure out where do you go to get this information, and
Yeah.
is it accurate? Is it up to date? And when you do have mergers and things change, how does that all become
Yeah.
right. Where's the
Yeah.
source of
Well,
truth
and just
again?
being able to see those. I mean, think about this. So, by the way, yeah, right now, this
We're off in the
interface
weeds
is
here a bit, but
constantly constantly getting updated, right? So we have all these things where you can look at current and propose. Soon we're gonna update that so it's a little bit more like thing. You can look at the difference between them.
yeah,
Um, if you're on GitHub, you can see the difference between two things, and that's a great way to look at things. So we are really building this mainly for end users, and so we want it to be friendly, but we also just want it to be accessible.
yeah,
But yeah, it's nice to have these documents where you can actually go, oh, okay, I guess these are our documents. I can go and I can read it right now, right? I don't have to, it's I don't have to look it up online somewhere or whatever. It's right there on my phone as I'm doing this. This, by the way, it's a TBNOA, the
yeah.
Telos
Well,
Blockchain
this is
Network
great.
operating
This
system.
is well timed. I read the TVONA recently to educate myself, but it was from the website,
All
and I
right.
understood it was slightly outdated because of some changes. And I'm like, oh, how do I get to these changes? Looks like I need to go here. The answer is it's right here.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think somewhere, I mean, it's personally we kept it out of the app, but somewhere it's we can have some kind of it makes it possible to have a historical look back on all basically version control on these documents, right? When did that come in? I think that's a totally different
Mm-hmm.
app.
Sure.
Right now
Yeah.
we are looking at, but hey, this is, if you haven't seen the TBNOA, you can just look it up in Decide Voter and see what's see what rules you agreed to, right?
Right. By the way,
Yeah.
here's your fine
Um,
print.
yeah. So anyway, it's
Okay.
it's it's a pretty robust thing. Hey, this is great. It's a deep dive. I'm really excited we're doing this. Let's see. Uh, let's see about how to. Let me show you just a little bit more about it, though, so that we can kind of show people, what more how they'll use it.
Yeah.
And this is Decide Voter, right? So this is an app that is mainly suited to us, the members of an organization, right? You can do just about everything through it, um, uh, but we are also envisioning a suite of different products. This it's not, it just becomes apparent to us that if you want, that Decide Voter, even though you could technically do everything, it's not specifically aligned to certain functions, that would probably be simpler for people. A lot of things some people aren't gonna touch, right? And some things we can streamline for certain ways to use it. Like we could have a decide amend um, uh, version, for example, version that just mainly works on
Just.
how can we optimize the user experience for working on these bylaws or constitutions or whatever, um, you know uh, rules of the organization. um, and then we can have other things for actually operating a DAO. Again, all these functions are kind of there, but you can optimize an app so it's much easier to just do what the thing that you want to do. And people are happy to have a suite of apps
Yeah.
to open up. So that's, I think, where we're going to take development. And I think business wise, I think that this is something this big thing is something that was originally going to be called DAC Lab, that Goodblock was going to release, and realized that it was so much bigger, the opportunity and the need. So we just decided to make Decide Voter open, not Decide Voter, make Telos Decide, Telos Amend, all these things open source, so anyone can use them for free. And then we made Decide Voter, which is free. There's no ads. It doesn't track you. It's like what I wish all apps would be.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's a lot of trust, and you don't want to you don't want to give people reasons not to do it.
Right.
But there will also be professional versions of this, right? That even though there's things that are open source and you could be used for free, there's also usually professional versions that companies or big that where we can add we can customize it, we can add some additional services, we can add that sort of that just make everything a little bit easier. running in the background, and people will pay for that, right? Companies will pay for that because they
Mm-hmm.
want to have a, SLA, a software licensing agreement, or a service level agreement,
Yep.
and it just makes sense. So I think there's plenty of room for a lot of people across the world to build careers around, um, decide and amend, and these things that we built. So
Sure.
we just, we kind of got to
Scalable.
show the way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyway,
Yeah. Lead
so,
by example, I
so
guess, right?
you can get in. Hey, who's this guy? I'm gonna. So you can go and, change your status and everything, your profile basically. Groups also have profiles, because it's all just like looking at an account, right? This is me, Douglas at TCD. Um, if I go and switch and oops, if I go and switch my account to this one, then, I can go and change that. I can look at anybody's account. Like, I also envision, maybe this app, maybe some other app, where there's, more discussions about things, right? That's a natural thing to do, where people, if you have governance features, why wouldn't you have, almost like a social chat type
Sure.
discussion board? We haven't crammed it into Decide Voter yet. Still deciding what fits into which product, but that's one of the reasons why it's very public, right? And so if I'm looking at something that, if I'm looking at something that's, you know a ballot or something like that, and, here's a proposal that's in progress right now, right? So this is to we have Telos Works, and, they've put together a Telos Works 3.0, system, and now they're voting to see if people want to, make the, engage in that. So,
Mm-hmm.
I can look at the status of it, or so I can look at the the basic information about it. I can go and actually get the proposal. I won't do that right now. But there's like a PDF on there, and then I can vote however I want to vote on these things. Um, and then I can also see who else has, right, and I can see, okay, so here's somebody who's voted. That's Justin, actually, Godici, and I can see what he's voted. Imagine if I could also just have a conversation. I could go, hey, and get on there, and go talk to him and say, I think you're wrong to vote about this, or
Right.
why did
You
you
can
vote this
change your
way,
vote.
or, just a full discussion system, around this. Why there's no reason to separate that social element from the voting element, and it
Mm-hmm.
creates a forum where people can actually talk. Imagine this, actually talking about what you're going to vote on, right?
Sure. So yeah, well, yeah, it sounds important. Absolutely. I guess so. I have a few like so. For example, that proposal. Who dictated what quorum was and what it takes to pass? Is that built into the overarching group that sets those, and then
Yeah,
anyone can submit
because
a
this
proposal?
is a yeah. So it's highly modular. You can configure it however you want,
Okay,
and those rules can be on a per group basis.
got it.
This is based on the Telos governance group, and so this group has its own rules. Uh, Telos Works is slightly a special case, but you could do this on any group, right?
Got it.
So this group would have its own rules, right?
Can, can,
We
can
went in
we
there.
can you
It
create a
could have its
group
own
and walk
doc.
us through some of those parameters?
Sure, sure. So, if I want to go into, yeah, each group has its own system. If we look at this screen here, right? Tell us, we've got a logo, we've got, a profile pic, we've got, um, the governance, the name of it, which is Telos governance token. The manager is EOSIO, which means it's owned by the chain, right? And then the supply, this uses vote. Vote is one of the things we have to do is balance between what your active amount of staked tokens is at any given time, so that there's no way to vote and then send your token somewhere else and basically double vote
Mm-hmm.
those. And that's actually was one of the harder problems to solve. And so we did. But there's I'm going to spare people the details. So so that was sort of a big thing we had to do. Um, I can look at, if I want to look at just works, right? We can filter this, so I can look at, closed and active, or just active, or whatever. I'm going to do look at just active ones, and then we see there's three things that are active right now. Um, One is this phases of matter project in progress. Let's take a look at that. Sorry, I have very fat fingers for my phone.
Hey,
Curse
you said it, not me, huh?
modern dilemmas. So there's 6 days. You can see here, this is a ballot. This is a Telos Works ballot. There's 6 days left. We see, status of matter phase two. How many votes have been cast so far? Got to get. I haven't even voted on this, so I gotta do that soon. You can see here under progress that it's definitely getting. It has over, as 90% of the people voting are voting yes, but it's nowhere near the quorum it needs in order to pass. Um, so one
Got
of
it.
the things that, it has to have 5% of the tokens staked in registered vote in accounts registered to vote. And 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 sorry. uh um the problem was sharing my screen. So yeah,
Yeah.
it has, now we have this big election, we have a lot more people registered to vote. And so it actually becomes harder for these things to pass, which is what we wanted. But that quorum, right, is a configurable thing. So let's say that we've got this I'm sorry. So let's say, we here these things are come pre-configured at needs 50% time to pass, and or 50% yes over no's to pass, and a quorum of 5% of the voting group.
Mm-hmm.
Right, those things, and we're reflecting that right now, and so we see it's not passing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but that when we set up our own when we set up our own groups, those could be done with any, it could somebody could need a super majority, it could need a high quorum, no quorum, whatever you're setting it up, right?
Yeah.
Because there's lots, and the voting can actually be done, um, one token, one vote, right? So stake weighted voting, it can be done one account, one vote. Especially, it becomes more useful when you have identity involved, so that but that can be done within individual groups. We don't really do that on Telos itself, but
Right.
groups have ways to basically issue tokens to everyone. Um, and then and you can even do quadratic. That's all built in. All those methods of voting, or basically of counting votes, is all built in already to
Okay.
tell us decide. And so in decide voter, we take advantage of those. If I wanted to, so if I wanted to come in here, on a decide or tell us works thing, I could here I can also get rid of this here. I can push the plus button, right,
Mm-hmm.
and create either a ballot or a works proposal. So I would do a works proposal. Works proposals have to be under one of these categories. So this would be developers. This is the name that it's going to be. This here
Mm-hmm.
is the name that it's going to be used on, but I could call it um, uh, uh, you know
Call it scam likely.
yeah, scam likely. uh, I just leave it. It's funny.
You may not
Uh,
pass your, but if your proposal is called scam likely, you might not get a lot of throughput on it.
yeah. So I can, yeah. So I can call it developers. Just going back. I can change. It gives me an automatic one, but I can do anything that has, you know, uh, that has, you know, new dot voting. I don't know, whatever that is.
Sure.
And then I can add a title. I can add a description. I can add a a photo,
Hmm.
a profile pic for it, basically and these things all just make it they all just make it a little bit easier to for people to sort of interact with these. I
Sure.
think the
To find it,
people like
understand it. Yep.
pictures.
Yep. Makes sense. Yeah, to find it and to just be able to read the description and the title. Of course, it all helps present it.
Right. Right. And then the next step would be, I'm not going to go through the whole thing. All right. So if we want to show a group, if we want to create a group, we can come back out of here. The green up in the upper right hand corner, the green plus our our how we make new things, right? So
Hmm.
we can, by the way, we can search for groups. We can you know there's all kinds of things that, even if we're not a member of a group, we could become a member. We could join, right? And you know
Hmm.
just go through this process, and now we're registered in that group. And then we can, and I don't actually, even though I've joined, I don't have any tokens in it yet, but um I can look at all the at the things that they're doing, any docs that they have about that group. I don't think that one has them, but it's easy to search for existing groups. Uh, it's easy to create a group as well. And when you create a group, which I'm going to do by pushing this green button,
Okay.
there's three kinds of groups. We could create a public group, which is probably the most common kind. And again, we could add a photo for the group. Um, we can add a title, description. First of all, actually, I'm going to back out of this. If I want to create a group, I'm going to switch to this account that I actually made recently for what I think the EOSAL core dev group is going to use
Okay.
to to actually do our voting. And so I started setting that up. So I can create a group. Is another way I can create a group from there. I'm signed in now as that
Hmm.
as this, right, instead of my other thing. So this will then be the owner of the group that I create. So that'd be the first thing to do. We could add a photo. Just I'll add this as well, and uh, it'll set the file. It's the same one, but
Yeah.
so this could be the description, um, the token code. That's something that we would. Uh, let's see. I think that's. Oh, this is what we want to call the token, right? So if so the way that we create a token treasury is that it actually has a voting governance token in there, right? So it needs a symbol. So that would be let's just say ENF is a symbol. And then this would be the supply. This would be if I want to join the group myself through doing this. And um, and then just move. I guess I need a description. I need to set it public. Um,
And does public mean anybody could just join this and hop in there
well,
without you?
it means that, so yeah, public means that anyone can add themselves to the group. It doesn't mean that they necessarily have tokens.
Okay.
Um, so the tokens would still have to be issued. Tokens can't be issued until somebody has in except in public groups, tokens can't be issued until somebody's part of that. So if I were to make it private, there's three kinds. There's public, which is, just anyone can join, and then they still need tokens to stake and vote with. The next one is private. It means that only the controller of a group is able to, only the manager of the group, in this case the account right now that's creating this, is able to add people, and that actually would be more that would be more appropriate. That's what I'll change it to. And then the last one is invite, and what that means is you can be invited by an existing member.
Got it. Not
So
just the owner. Okay.
yeah, in private only the owner can do it. Invite an existing member can invite you.
Cool. Okay.
Public, you don't need any form of invitation. So I'm going to put this on private right now. It probably makes more sense, and I can always update all this other stuff. I can always update later. So I'll just join. And then I'm actually not going to do this because I'll do it more thorough. I'm going to do a more thorough.
But you'll actually create tokens, like
yeah,
it'll mint tokens on chain.
It will. Yeah, this is a certain kind of token. It's not exactly the same as an EOS.io token. We have a for Telos combining with the Vote token. We have that connector that I code that I mentioned earlier, and we'll be making that possible for everybody soon. But that's just one of our development things we have to do. So before too long, you'll be able to take, if you've got an existing regular economic token, and then we can just build this same. We'll have a shim basically that does all the rebalancing for you as people stake their tokens. That's a feature we still need to build. But if you're just having something that you're originally building as that's only to connect a EOS.io token, regular, economic token to a governance token. If you want to just start with a governance token, then you can start like just with these. And these could be traded and used as regular tokens, but I think that the way people are going to be more used to it is by us connecting those two. But this is purely for voting, right? So yeah, if I confirm this, it'll create that. Now I could also go and say, well, this is going to be a small group. All it's going to ever need is 100 tokens, right? And so then I have a max supply of 100 tokens. You can get under the hood. Like, this is meant to be easy, but again, this is when I say that there's more advanced ways of doing this that would say, we can say things like this, like maybe these tokens, can they be, this just does it sort of the more vanilla way, but we can also say, hey, these are tokens that can't be divided, right? The smallest token size is 1 token, right? These can be tokens that you could also have tokens that are not transferable, right? If I were doing doing a governance system, and I'd want to say, especially if it's something where I want to keep I want to keep it limited, right? This is a group, and I only want people I've given permission to, or whoever the group is, to do it. Now you can also, so what's cool here is, so the manager, you see this part that says, so the token symbol is ENF on this proposal. The manager is EOS.io core dev, right?
Your account.
My account, right? But then just while I'm setting this up, I mean, it could always be my account, but really for these things to be best, we would take I would no longer be the sole key holder on that account. We just change the keys.
And sig it out.
So yeah, so that the account's code owns itself. Got it. And so then you could only, then I would no longer have the ability to go and update things, and only the governance system built into the account could actually do it, right? In the early stages, it's probably good to have somebody still own it and be able to make those changes. But then as soon as it becomes a real governance group, then you don't want that, right?
Yeah.
So if I were to confirm this, I'm not going to confirm it now because I actually want to do a demo of actually walking through this process. And this is actually a real group. Plus, it would cost me 20 telos
No,
to do that, and
precious.
I'm not wasting that. We could do the same thing on a test net too, by the way. So I'm
Yeah.
just going to cancel it, but that would, yeah, I would create everything, and then I could basically invite people and send them tokens, and they would be able to vote. Right. This is something that's being set up for a group of, 30 people, maybe as many as 100 someday. But probably more like it's not even 30 actually. It's for voting for the
It's
chains.
the chains, right?
Yeah, so it'd be 6 or 7 or 8 or whatever, however many members there are. So this is not like a big, a larger group might be a homeowners association where the vote goes with the house, right, or the
Mm-hmm.
apartment. And other, there's all kinds of sizes of groups that would change this a little bit, but we know that we know that these are the main pieces that people are going to need, and so we built it in that way.
So
You can also,
once you get in there in that group, then and if you did hit confirm, that's where then you could decide one token, one vote, or it's
yeah,
stake
yeah.
weighted, or
So if
that you
I'm
get to
in
choose
that
all that, right?
group, I'm gonna switch this, and I'm gonna say, okay, I'm gonna vote from a group that I am in, and fat fingers, sorry, and I want to create a ballot. I can create a poll, right, and I can do all these things here, um, and then set up exactly how it gets voted,
Okay.
right?
Oh, that's clever. So you can
And
do polls and votes. So you get a few options
Yeah,
there.
you can do, well, you can do a proposal. So this
Proposal,
is
yeah.
now in a private group, right? So it's not the Telos one anymore. So it's slightly different.
Mm-hmm.
In Telos, we can do certain things.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so we can do a proposal is this top one. That would just be like akin to a Telos Works, right, funding proposal. If
Mm-hmm.
money go, if here's how much money it's going to be, and if it passes, it goes to this account basically. And um, there's a poll which is lets everybody vote but doesn't take any action it doesn't do any kind of transfer or changes at the end, right?
Which maybe when the OSAO group is going to pick a name, for example, you could do a poll, for example, if you wanted to.
Exactly, we discussed this. We said, hey, we can do this so that stuff only goes through. I think what they just want is just simple
Right.
polling
Yeah.
really right now.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think we're just moving quickly. But
Yep.
I actually think that whenever the ultimate group comes out, we'll just set this up for it. I think we will migrate to something where whatever entity comes out of this, it will actually use this system, because we'll use it all the way through, and and we still have the power to make this whatever we need, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is a great, it's great to work with real organizations like we're doing now, because then you see whether you correctly guessed at what their needs are, right? And we do okay because we actually do this. We actually are using this, right? We built this around Telos and a couple of other groups then that we're adding. So we already have like said, okay, well, what's the real world usage of this? And you only discover how people, what your app really needs to be when people you don't know are using it.
Right.
When
Yeah.
it's not you.
That's right.
So we can create this. It has to be a poll. An election is a standard election where there's one seat and any number of people can run for it, and the one person who gets the most votes wins. Or it's also possible that no one, because of the rules, you may need to have 55% vote to win or whatever. Even if whatever these rules might be that you set up, that's how you win, right? So, but
Yep.
that's basically filling one seat with one person. If we change that and look at leaderboard, that is how we just did the election that congratulations, you were one of the winners for the Telos Foundation board. And that envisions something where there's multiple seats and multiple candidates, and
Okay.
those who get the most votes are win. Now, what's interesting about an election or a leaderboard election is that it doesn't transfer money what it does at the end is it transfers the control of certain accounts. So the Telos Foundation board, for example, has there's a certain number of accounts that are, that can be created and listed on the controls, the MSIG, the multi-signature controls of other Telos things, like so of other Telos Foundation things, like so voting for fund for all the other funding and all, but also things like there's certain account permissions, like um, the free Telos Foundation is the one that implements and administers the free accounts, right? And every once in a while, something like that has to change. How much RAM they get, how much,
Yep.
adding new people, whitelisting people, all of those things. Those permissions for how that contract works are an MSIG of the Telos Foundation board. So it's not, it's not simply about passing money around. I mean, that's an important function of governance, but it's also about passing control around, and everyone was automatically seated, right? That's one of the things that's so exciting about this in terms of an election. Whoever wins is automatically given that control, and the other people who previously held that control are moved out, right? So
Yep.
there's no execution risk like you would see, even in certain countries, right? Somebody wins the election, and the powers that be don't honor that one way or for one reason or the other.
Sure.
And that's like a
It's
kind of
baked in
a
here.
banana republic type of thing, except sometimes it's not, except when it's a big country. Very many times throughout history, including recent history, we've seen possible examples of that.
Yeah.
And so it's a real risk that has to be eliminated. Like the incumbent powers, you don't want them to have to approve whatever whatever outcome
Yep.
happened.
Sure.
So this is how we do that.
Like, yeah, that's great.
It's one of the reasons I think it's actually um, a very important set of tools that you have to get right. You have to eliminate the risks of bad execution. We can make a kick-ass app and all these things, but if it didn't fix that problem, then it's not ready to revolutionize governance,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yep.
And if we didn't fix the possibility of double voting, it wouldn't, we had to fix a lot of things, and now that we've done them, it's great. It's like great. Oh, it's like, hey, yeah, and we did that and we did that. At the time, trying to figure out those solutions were were challenging, were
Sure.
fun brain
Well, at least you
challenges.
identified them as being a problem before it manifested in an actual election, right?
Yeah, true. And I hope we've done, we will discover how well we've done that. But, there's been a lot of elections and there's been a lot of political upheaval around the world, and
Yeah.
at different levels. And so many lessons to learn from, and tried to, encompass all of those things in this tool.
Cool. Well, that's great. I think you've really run through it well. So I guess maybe what'd be fun is after you actually set up and created this the tool or the group at least for the
Mhm.
EOSIO working group. We could do a follow up call and you can kind of walk through how that's actually been established um,
Yeah.
and then
We
kind of
can
because
show you, it's transparent and
yeah
immutable. So, I mean, we are a group of chains making decisions for, or through whatever process, but ultimately voting on how a group might work together.
yeah.
And so people should be able to see those votes, right?
Well,
and
we're
and
seeing the conversations. I'm very impressed that those calls are being put out. I mean, Rami's been great. He put it out like the day of that one. He had it up on his YouTube. So I just think that level of transparency is incredible to see, and I'm really makes me proud to be involved in this kind of EOSIO ecosystem, which
yeah, yeah.
leading by example, right? And this is yet another tool that leads by example. So it's great.
Right. If you're not watching if you're not watching the call or on the call, you can still watch on Decide Voter,
Yep.
or any of the other interfaces. But this is, in my view, the most sophisticated, best one at this time. But you can see as we drop a new poll in, and we can I didn't go all the way through the process, but I almost went all the way through the process. And when you see, I could create a poll in less than a minute. So we could be having that meeting
Sufficient.
and then
Yeah.
call a vote, drop a poll in, and everybody at their own place can vote. We don't have to worry if it's really them or not,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it can be, it's a tool that you could, it's all around the world. You could use it anywhere, but you can also use it at the speed of how do you type in a question, and then that's recorded,
Yeah.
right? And the outcomes are recorded on the chain, and so that becomes available for everyone. I think that transparency is absolutely essential for good governance. I think one of the reasons that you know people are concerned about democracy right now is it's not as transparent. The process is as transparent as we would hope.
Right.
um
Well, we want it to
yeah,
be legitimate, right? This
you
is all
would
about the
ideally.
whole game's about trust, right? With trustless networks, but unfortunately, there is trust still because we're dealing with humans. Humans have to make subjective decisions, and I want to
Yeah,
trust that you actually, Douglas, chose that. Is that really what you said, or was that really your vote? So
yeah,
this allows for that.
yeah. Yeah, hopefully. I mean, there's the certainty, right? The certainty in the universe is difficult, right? But it's this, instead of the question being, did I ever vote that at all, was that counted, anything like that, it becomes, did I, either I voted it, or somebody put a gun to my head,
Sure.
or somehow hacked my account. All those things are very difficult to do, right? It greatly reduces the amount of possibilities.
Yeah.
Whereas right now, it's, people, like, they put a they they put a mark on a piece of paper, and that piece of paper gets moved around somewhere and somewhere
Sure.
else. And did it get lost? Did somebody sneak in some additional pieces of paper?
Yep.
It's
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 did
a
a
big
dead person
deal.
vote?
This is a lot easier.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Tough to get a deceased person to use this tool.
I don't know. We would need an identity solution for that, which is one of the reasons why I personally am so interested in TID, the identity system that we're developing with the programmatic, the team that built the
This is
Estonian
the Estonian guy.
national
Yeah.
system. Really good guys. We're really trying to refine that and it's not cheap, and so we're trying to make sure that, and nor should it be, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
But we're trying to make sure that we are allocating what limited resources Telos has, in a way that really serves the interest of the users, all the way along, because uh, identity gets its most value late in the process, right? When you have kind of everything.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, so
Cool.
identity will really help on all these things too, and that's one of the reasons why it's definitely on our roadmap, and we're trying to
Yeah.
you know
But at least in this case, this is a controlled group for this particular EOSI working group piece. Even though you have 4 accounts on your phone right now,
yeah,
you're going to at least have management over the actual group that's doing voting. It's a small group, so it's pretty easy to not worry about it's a real
yeah,
human or not.
yeah, exactly. And eventually we're going to be adding something so that there's secret ballots, so I can always see what that my vote was counted and everything, but other people not can't necessarily see
See
that.
who it was. Got it.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Douglas, this has been excellent. I really appreciate your time and running through this. And hopefully, this has been useful for the viewers to get an idea what this is about and consider use cases in your own world and how you can take advantage of this tool.